Hello and welcome. This is the Astrology of the Week Ahead podcast, and I am your host, Chani Nicholas. This episode is going to be really short because there's not a ton that's happening this week, which is actually really lovely. Last week, we had the first North Node eclipse in Aries for a really long time. It opened up a whole new chapter, a whole new story. And next week we have the very last eclipse that we're going to have in Scorpio near the South Node for a couple of decades. So we're ending a big chapter next week. So this week actually gives us a kind of astrological recess, if you will, because there's just not a ton going on, which is lovely because we can reflect on what happened last week and we can prepare for what happens next week. We can be in this kind of liminal in-between space and have a moment to ourselves without any kind of major event happening. So, the actual astrology of this week goes like this. On Monday, the 24th, the Sun and the North Node make a conjunction. Now, the North Node is just a point in space. It's not an actual physical body, but it's treated with a lot of reverence in astrology. So, modern astrologers, modern Western astrologers, that is, think of the North Node as the place where we're going. Traditionally, this wasn't the conceptual understanding of the North Node. Traditionally, the North Node is a place of hunger and of reaching and of wanting to consume. And this is because the North and South Node are places where eclipses happen, right? So if a new moon or full moon happens around a North Node or South Node, there's going to be an eclipse. So eclipses were thought of as kind of dangerous times because the light of the sun or the moon goes out, gets eclipsed. And so the ancients thought that there was this dragon in the sky that would consume the sun or consume the moon during an eclipse. And the North Node is the hungry head of the dragon. It is the part of us or part of life that is voracious and devouring. And the South Node is the tail of the dragon that can kind of sweep everything away. So the North Node in astrology, in traditional astrology, is thought of as a place of grasping and wanting and devouring and of this like deep, insatiable hunger. And the South Node is known as a place of letting go. It's also a place of loss and of draining and of releasing. So last week we had a North Node eclipse in Aries, first of its kind in a very long time, a couple decades. And next week we'll have a South Node eclipse in Scorpio, the last of its kind for a couple of decades. So next week is going to be about releasing and letting go. Last week and a little bit this week is about our hunger and our appetite and our desire for more, how it can get us into trouble, and what it's actually good for. That's the question between last week and this week. That's the tie-in. So on Monday, as the sun makes that conjunction with the North Node, we're asked to reflect on our appetites. This is happening in Taurus because the North Node is still technically in Taurus. It's going to move into Aries soon. But right now it's in Taurus. So we just had the eclipse in Aries near the North Node, but this week is the sun conjunct the North Node in Taurus. And so we want to look at how collectively greed operates, especially on a material level, because this is happening in Taurus. And in our life, we want to reflect on whatever happened last week with the eclipse in Aries. What hunger got stirred? What is the desire that's starting to awaken in us? And as Monday rolls through, we might feel that kind of same eclipsy North Node energy, which is to say, we might still feel that desire to do more. And that desire is a wonderful agent for propelling us into action. And we also have to know that it's never going to be satisfied. And that's the thing when we start to learn about where the North Node is in our chart, how it's impacting the rest of our chart, when North Node experiences like this occur, it's all about understanding our appetites and how to work with them. If we're trying to satiate an insatiable aspect of self, we're going to waste a lot of time and resources. But if we use that insatiable part of ourselves, or better yet, if we're conscious of that insatiable part of us, then we can work with it in a way to help us get to where we're going without ever thinking that this is going to actually satisfy me. When we work with this part consciously, we can achieve a lot of things without expecting that it's going to give us a specific result. If we think that achieving a lot is going to make us feel better about ourselves, or is going to make everybody love us, or is going to finally secure us a spot in this world, we're going to be really upset because we're going to spend a lot of time achieving something and then realize that we still are who we are. We're still saddled with this baggage of being human and all of the existential angst that comes with it. But if we know, like, oh, this is a part of me, this engine, this desire, this drive is a part of me, and it has a function and it can do some really great things, but I'm not going to expect it to ever feel satisfied. I'm not going to expect it to ever be happy and content. I just know that when I'm working with that part of me, it's going to get me to go far, but it's not the end-all be-all of my human existence. I also have to remember how to let go. I have to remember how to put my expectations down. And I have to remember how to enjoy the moment for what it is, not because of what I'm achieving, but for what I get to experience. So that's part of the medicine of this week and last week with this North Node astrology, or the planets that are, happening and doing things by the North Node, is we want to both acknowledge that part of us that is driven and that wants to get things done, and also not hang everything there. Also remember how to allow things to be what they are and appreciate what is, right? So there's the striving and there's the appreciation. And I need both. I don't know about you, but I definitely really enjoy the part of me that does get really excited about what is possible and what we can create together. And I have to also make room for the part that is in appreciation and is enjoying the process. So that's Monday's astrology. On Tuesday, the Sun and Saturn make a sextile, which is really helpful and affirming. Now, this is all happening in Taurus, and I want to just note that Mercury is retrograding through Taurus. So we're both reviewing what doesn't work on a very functional and practical level, and we're also noting our hunger, our desire, our drive, and what does work. So it's not that you can't do anything in Mercury retrograde. Obviously, that would be ridiculous and just not possible. We want to note what is not working, what is not functioning in the way that it needs to. And we want to make adjustments whenever we find those mistakes or those faults. And then with this astrology, especially on Tuesday, we want to say, oh, well, this actually does work really well. So I want to double down on this or reinvest in what does work well. And then the only other astrology of the week is on Saturday. Mars in Cancer makes a sextile to Uranus in Taurus. And this can be like a mild but exciting kind of moment. It definitely helps us to move towards what nourishes us and to move towards what needs protection and care and some sweetness, some love, some kindness, some tenderness. And it's in the movement that we are able to demonstrate care. It's in our actions that we're able to demonstrate love. So for yourself and for the other people in your life, what are the actions that you can take to demonstrate a deep and resounding care for yourself and possibly everybody else? And trying that in a new way because it is a sextile to Uranus. All right, y'all. Next week, we have that last eclipse in Scorpio, and this is what I want us to be meditating on this week as we move into that next eclipse. What are we willing to let go of or to loosen our grip around? Sometimes it's too much to think about letting go of something. Sometimes it's like, I don't even know what that would mean. But what if I just held it with a little bit more space? What if I gave this thing in my life, this challenge or this problem or this sorrow or whatever the thing is, a little bit more space? What if I just backed up a little bit and I let this thing breathe or let it be or let it find its own way? So there's this feeling with South Node eclipses, like we're going to have next week, of a cleansing process, of like an exfoliation process. And so metaphorically, we could think of like, what we can do to get ready for that. We can drink extra water. We can make sure we're hydrated. We can make sure we're rested. We can make sure that we're well resourced so that when the South Node eclipse comes through next week, we feel like, okay, yeah, I can soften my grip around this. When we feel in a state of lack, we're way more likely to grasp on to things that aren't good for us or that aren't working anymore, or that we've just outgrown. And when we feel really well resourced, when we feel rested and fed and loved, we're more likely to trust, and we're more likely to say like, okay, well, if it's not mine, then I'm going to let it go. And what is mine will come to me, or something of the sort. Thank you all so much for leaving reviews in the App Store. We read them. We appreciate them. I want to share one with you called Beautiful and Empowering. This app lives on my homepage. I use it every day to know what's happening in the cosmos on a global and personal level. I appreciate the personalized readings for my rising sign, which help me track the themes present in my life. Chani infuses my day with peace of mind, guidance, and empowered foresight. I'm so pleased with this app and highly recommend it to anyone looking for astrological and practical guidance for their day, week, and year. I've been using this app for years, and it keeps getting better. Natal chart interpretations, transits and what they mean, meditations, and so much more. It's an inexhaustible resource. Sending you lots of love. Enjoy this kind of recess in eclipse season type of week, and I will see you back here next week. Bye for now.